Well, companies providing cybersecurity services here in Singapore will soon be regulated. That's with the aim of improving their standards. And it comes after industry players and the public were consulted last year. Firms providing two types of services are going to be licensed. Firstly, those who offer penetration tests or a simulated cyber attack. Now, such tests are meant to check vulnerabilities. Second, those who manage security operations centers. Now, that's because these services are already widely adopted and providers, well, they can have significant access to their clients' systems and information. Service providers must apply for a license by this October. Unlicensed companies and individuals who continue to provide services will be penalized. They could face a fine of up to $50,000 or up to 2 years jail or both. Now, each license will be valid for 2 years.
More on this, we're joined by Xiang Zheng. He's head of advisory from Ensign. That's a cybersecurity service provider. Mr. Teo, first, your take on this new licensing framework. Who does it serve? Why is it necessary?
Thanks for having me. I think the licensing of services of this nature really can help improve the quality of services provided. For the consumer of such services, they can expect that the services are delivered by qualified professionals with due care to their systems and information, and potentially for standard service offerings to be provided at competitive prices. Further to these, I think with the provision of a list of licensed service providers, this will actually help to provide a directory for the consumers to be able to obtain good services easily and confidently from reliable sources.
Mr. Teo, if we could break that down a little, essentially this is to ensure that these companies, which have access to a lot of information from consumers, are up to the standard, as it were. So this license is only given if the company is up to scratch. Who decides how up to scratch a company is, and how do you know that this company has met the standard for which it then gets a license?
I think CSA is basically at the onset of defining what some of these criteria really are. From being a cybersecurity services provider, we do send our employees, our cybersecurity professionals, for continuous certification as well as retraining, so as to be able to ensure that they are equipped with the necessary knowledge, ethics, as well as the professional competencies to be able to carry out these services to a reasonable level of quality. And I'm very sure that the cybersecurity agency will eventually start sharing some of these criteria for all licensee applicants to be able to better understand what that means.
Of course, at the start, the two types of cybersecurity service providers that had been identified, they will be regulated first. And my colleague Dawn outlined them shortly before we cross to you. If you could explain why these two, why are they considered more important, more salient at this point? So we start with them first.
Right. I think I heard Dawn mentioning it. Penetration tests really are simulated attacks on systems which really help to uncover vulnerabilities that can be exploited by an adversary to compromise them. And when we look at the second service offering, which is Security Operations Center services, these really help organizations by watching their networks and systems for anomalous behaviors and really help to inform and respond to verified cyber attacks. Now, when we look at these two services, they are among the most common cybersecurity services available in Singapore. And these service providers, as are highlighted, have access to systems and business-sensitive information as a part of them performing their services. So any abuse of these kinds of access can really lead to business disruptions or data loss. And so when we look towards the licensing of these services, they can significantly change the cybersecurity landscape in a meaningful way in ensuring that accredited professionals are delivering them. At Ensign, we continuously work with our customers as well as with the regulators to ensure that we are delivering quality services for our clients.
Right. In fact, one of the reasons that Dawn mentioned why these two types are being picked is because they are already very much widely available and are adopted in the market, and they already have access to a lot of customer data, and for the moment are neither regulated nor licensed. One problem with regulation is, especially in this kind of area, things move so fast. How will regulation keep keep pace with the changes that go on in the cyber world, cybersecurity? Do you think this is going to be a problem going forward?
I think with any regulation, it needs some time to mature and develop itself. But given the context right now, based on what we know, it's laid out in a principle perspective. So it's not very tied down to specific technologies or practices as yet. So I guess the proof is in the pudding. We will have to see how this meets out over time. But nonetheless, I think for established service providers like ourselves, we will continue to upkeep the capabilities, the competencies and knowledge of our professionals to ensure that they are relevant first and foremost, as well as that they are competent in carrying out their services.
Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Xiang Zheng, Head of Advisory from Ensign, as a cybersecurity service provider, on the new licensing framework for certain types of cyber services in Singapore.